All right, we're live, we're recording. I already started to get emotional and choked up talking to Wendy before I hit record, but I wanted to record this video specifically, mainly for the groups that I have, because most people who are in my personal groups, I'll probably post this on my YouTube channel too, so if you're watching this on YouTube, hey. But this conversation to me is so important, and I think one that's often overlooked for entrepreneurs, especially empath entrepreneurs who are learning how to create a business and how to have a relationship with the business. And when you've had a historic relational pattern with life that's been codependent, that translates into your relationship with your business itself. And there's a lot of vulnerable pieces to that I think I don't really ever hear anyone talking about. And sometimes I've wondered as an entrepreneur, am I the only one that feels this way? Am I the only one that struggles with this? And Wendy has really helped me see that I'm not. And working with other empath entrepreneurs has been healing balm on my heart. So Wendy J Holloway, I want to introduce you to my YouTube channel, and most people in my private groups probably know you or have seen you at some point. But Wendy is also an empath entrepreneur, highly sensitive person as well, and specifically works with, is it just empaths or just creative people in general, entrepreneurs?
Well, I do so many different things, but I work with actually a company here that helps entrepreneurs to build their business plan. And that's how I kind of got started in business coaching. And I've been working mostly with people who have anxiety problems. And so they're funded through the government to get some help because they can't cope. And I'm finding that most of the people who struggle the most with anxiety are actually HSPs and, and empaths. So it's very interesting.
This is fascinating. It's funny that I didn't even know that specifically about the connection there. I didn't know it was government funded, and that's fascinating because I've been wondering, like, I as I said before I hit record, I really believe that a lot of in the next few years, a lot of people are going to be becoming entrepreneurs, and I think specifically highly sensitive people who and empaths who are just wired to the collective conversation. They're just wired to the psychic collective conversation and how it feels in the body. I really feel that they are being pushed to the edge and realizing at a core level, I have to heal this in order to not just survive, but have any sort of quality of life. And that's the point I was at when I first started my journey here. So just for anyone watching, Wendy, I've done a personal session with her before, and I was just blown away by just having someone witness me who understood things about me. It understood what it is to be highly sensitive, understood what it is to be empathic, and to have I don't know, just the narrative that we create around that. So this has been huge for me. And I asked Wendy if she would come on and have another conversation with me, just specifically about wounds around organization, not just organization, but like creating a business, having a relationship with your business. And that involves, in order for it to do well and thrive, it involves organization and systems and systematizing. And I think for a lot of people who struggle with anxiety, that stuff just stresses us out. And so I wanted to just dive into this conversation because I don't hear many people talking about it, and I want to go. So thank you so much for being here, first of all.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. So I would love to just start off. I mean, I'm fascinated now by what you told me about the specifics of your job. So I'm kind of curious, what you've learned the most from working specifically with highly sensitive, empathic people and their relationship to their business.
It's interesting because I feel like most of them are so insecure and don't feel like they have something to really offer. And we go back, I'm more witchy than most of the business coaches that work there. And I take them back to the wounds, and I don't know how you can build a healthy relationship with your business if you don't have a healthy relationship with your own self and who you are. So we spent a lot of time in my first sessions, and really throughout all of it, going back and healing those parts. So yeah, it's a lot of insecurity, a lot of having been made wrong. And like, I love that piece of it actually, because I've been rewriting the creation story. I'm this understanding about mythology that I've been diving into as a result of some of your work. And with that, like, the creation story is so vague that it really is like a myth. It's just somebody trying to explain how the world came about, and then it's put into the Bible, but there's no specifics. It's not an accurate representation of exactly what happened. It's a myth.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I find that there's so much beauty in it and in the vagueness, because then we can play with it so much.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. So in that, well, I want to come back to the beginning part of that later on.
Okay.
But in that, there's the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And I think so much of what makes us wrong, or what, in your language, what makes us go to war, is that there is this whole paradigm that we've put ourselves into, and that is eating from the fruit of believing that there is right and wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And this smooth talking serpent comes in and starts telling Eve, in my story, how to be right. And this is how you do it right. And so this is how you dance. And this is how you speak. And this is how you sit and eat. I almost feel like it was etiquette lessons or something. But the serpent can make up all the rules. And now that there's right and wrong, it's almost like going to the casino where the odds are stacked against you, and you're more likely to be wrong than you are to be right. Yeah. So we all go through this experience of life in this paradigm of right and wrong, believing in polarities, that we are wrong and that we're separate and that we're bad and whatever. And so that's, I think, where the wounding comes in that element. And I kind of lose track. I know where I want to go with that eventually, but I don't want to take over.
No, I love it. I was so drawn into that. And I think it's a good place to begin with this conversation, which is that the root of this inner struggle that we have with ourselves comes from this paradigm that we've been in, that we're either right or wrong. And most likely for someone who struggles with this, they've gotten programmed deeply with the idea that they're wrong. And they usually spend most of their energy and time trying to be right, trying to be enough, trying to do it right. And it's completely and utterly exhausting. So what I got out of what you just said is going back to the creation story, like where did this belief get created? And then changing the story essentially, or how would you say, I'm curious what your process is with this when you go there to the creation story.
Well, so with the creation story, like, what if that's a portal? Like, what if that tree is a portal and it took them out of this Garden of Eden and sucked them into this other world, almost like an underworld, where there is right and wrong. And you are having to play the rules based on what this sly serpent says are the rules, and he can keep changing them. So in order to change that story, I think it's important to get out of that portal, like, come back out of it. And the only way to do that is not in entering into no, you're wrong, serpent, no, you're wrong systems. One of the reasons that empaths and highly sensitives don't like systems and whatever is that they don't leave room for humanity. They don't leave room for who we are. It's very like the system can erase the humanity of us. So we don't like that, right? Innately, we can feel that it's not good. So to exit that, like you talk about all the time, we don't go to war with a warring thing. We have to come out of that paradigm. So how do we do that? It's only through love. That's the only way through it, to come back out of it and come back into the Garden of Eden experience, our heaven on earth.
Right. And a big part of that, I've realized, is allowing yourself the time to witness and love yourself. And part of that, like going back to that, the beginning for you, where did I pick up this belief? And how can I give myself in that moment information that I didn't have at that moment? You know, in other words, meet the need, because in that moment I fell for it. I took the fruit. I took the fruit, and I believed I chose to act and what's the word I'm looking for? Be that code, which is I'm broken. I'm not enough. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So when we see those moments, I believe again that those are portals because they stand out on our memory. So we
Mm-hmm.
can go back into that memory and come back to that version of ourselves and love that version. So
Mm.
it's like, I see you. I see how badly you want to be right. I see how it hurts you to be made wrong and that you know that this isn't what you want, but you feel stuck. And
Mm-hmm.
so there is another way. And just telling that version of yourself and then inviting her to come through, him or her, to come up through that portal and back into that heaven on earth reality. Instead, we reclaim those pieces one at a time until, finally we're just so full of our, like, who we are. We have to remember who we actually are.
Mm.
We are not wrong. We are not broken. There is nothing separate from us because we are one with everything that there is.
Right. And for me, when I started really getting that and realizing like I don't have to make myself wrong, that was anomaly. And so then in the moments where I felt wrong, I would become, and I still have to do this, I become more observant of it rather than like actionary, because in the past, as soon as I felt like I was wrong, I'd be like, well, fuck it all then. Like I better throw away everything I was doing so I don't get in trouble, you know?
Right.
And often I've had in my career, in my entrepreneurial journey, a lot of start, stop, because it'll feel good and I'll let it feel good. And then something comes up and I feel wrong. And then I'm like, so I'm wrong. So I shut down. And I've seen this pattern. It's just, I feel like it's taken me, and I'm not making this wrong either, and I used to, but it feels like it's taken me a long time to get out of that pattern, to get as soon as I would get to the point where I would feel wrong. It's like I would want to throw away everything I did, because it was like, I want to hurry and like get rid of any evidence that I did something stupid, that I maybe screwed up royalty or got it wrong. So royally, interesting to think of it that way. But what I was going to say is once I started giving myself space for like, wait, what if I don't make this wrong in this moment? What if I just observe how I feel? Why do I have these violent feelings that come up? Almost like violent in the sense of I want to get rid of, like I said, anything I've done that's attached to this mistake, And for me, it's because I'm public. So if I post a video that later I don't totally resonate with, I'm like, oh no, I need to delete it instantly. Right. And I felt like this pause, like, no, I can actually leave it. And this whole time in this YouTube journey for me, it's been this like, people are going to appreciate, I've heard it all along. You don't even know, but people are going to appreciate that you showed that vulnerability and that you didn't take it off, and you dared to show it. And because so many people are going to need to know that that's okay as they step into this journey. And I feel like there's something right there in when we give ourselves permission to just live, which means like you see how something works and then you realize, oh, this works and this doesn't, and you adjust. That process doesn't have to be, this is right, this is wrong, this is bad, this is good. Now that you tried and you did this thing that didn't work, you're now bad and now you deserve to be punished. That was the stop. It would be, I'd go, and I'd get the fuel. And then if I thought I did something wrong, it would be a dead stop, literally dead stop in my reality, even to where money would come to a halt. I wouldn't manifest anything. I couldn't manifest anything. And then I would notice I would get into a pattern of, oh, I better create something or do something or figure out how to do it right. Or like, it was just like this really anxiety driven way of realizing with what I was doing with my business, which is why I started speaking to entrepreneurs in the first place. So I'm curious, like for you, as you've witnessed people going through this process, once they give themselves permission to make mistakes, which I feel like that's really what it is. When you stop going to war, means you stop going to war with mistakes and you work with them instead of go to war with them, which changes everything you're capable of creating. Everything. Yes. It changes everything.
And for my personality, it's interesting to hear your experience, because you would just be like, fuck it. Like, I'm going to destroy everything that I just created and whatever, to hide the evidence. But it goes back again. I love creation story for this topic. I don't know why, but Adam and Eve went and covered up. They wanted to hide what they had done, right?
Yep.
And so for me, my experience was I want to prove that I can do this. Like I want to earn my right to be
Yep.
right.
Totally.
I want to rule in this kingdom of right and wrong. So it's just remembering, like you said, about just observing yourself, and then coming in with love. If we keep playing the game, defending ourselves or hiding or agreeing that we are wrong, we're making an agreement. If we're playing that game,
Yep.
then we can't go forward. And I brought my 4 Agreements book. It's probably backwards because of my camera, but the 4 Agreements. Is that okay? Yep. By Don Miguel Ruiz. I love this book, but he talks about how we enter into agreements with things. So if we don't agree that we're wrong, you're right, that's when we can start changing it. So when I'm working with clients that exit out of the I'm wrong, I'm bad, everyone's against me, whatever comes up in that paradigm, then they can actually start creating. So it's not that they don't still have triggers, we still have those. But that's where I like to come back to the beginning of the creation story, where God was creating. And it's like when we picture that space at first, it kind of shows this picture of chaos. It shows this picture of it talks about the void or the chaos. And you just did a video on creativity dissolves fear, that episode. So perfect with this topic. But like God was speaking into the void, and he or she, they, however we want to say it. I like to say they weren't going like, this is bad, this is wrong, I can't believe the chaos, we're gonna have to clean this up. You know, what if somebody sees this? They were just like, what do I see here? What do I see in this chaos that I can do something with? What can I, like, it's almost like looking at the clouds and seeing, what shapes do I see here? So when working with people, if I can get them to start seeing, what are you urging towards? What is calling to come forth out of this chaos, out of this void?
Yes.
And then speak it.
Yes. And this is the part right here that kind of blew me away in my own journey too, is realizing that my urge to create wasn't wrong, because what I was making wrong in the old paradigm was my urge to create, the literal fact that I'm a creator. And I mean, and there's so many fear programs around that, which is why I did the video on fear, and how the way that fear gets us to agree with the lack matrix, with the paradigm of right and wrong, good and bad, sacrifice. So there's, and even the fear around, for me, because I come from a religious background, I think you do too, I'm very sensitive to that fault line of fundamentalism and fear that comes from it, an extreme right and wrong, and like we'll go to war over what we believe is wrong, because we're that terrified that we're going to get in trouble if we get it wrong. So I'll even kill you or murder you, or whatever it is, I'll do whatever to be right. To me, that's, and I literally have had that in my reality. It's like in my DNA, the cult energy. So I've found it's something, again, that I don't feel like a lot of people speak to. And in fact, someone even said about that video, I feel like you're giving too much, like, don't make fear a big deal at all. And something in me was like, well, you may not have ever been controlled by fear to the extent that some of us have, because it is a big deal, anyway, that's just a whole different thing. But something about like that moment, going back, what you're pointing to is like, if we're creators, and if we realize we get to choose, we're not just in this roulette game of right and wrong, and you just got a 50-50 chance at any given moment that you might be wrong or might be right. So you might be fucked one way or another. I mean, what a way to spend our creative energy. But when we realize we actually can look at the chaos, the things that are quote unquote wrong or feel contractive in us, and the things that feel amazing and expansive, and we can do something with all of it, and something about that transition of not making it wrong is huge, is so huge. And I feel like humanity as a whole needs that collective permission that we get from us, especially highly sensitive and empathic people, because we hold that sensitive grid. We're often the ones that will take action in extreme ways based on right and wrong, like you said, whether it's through proving it or through hiding evidence. You know what I mean? Evidence of being human. Either way, I think that there's something very sensitive on the grid right now with highly sensitive people and empaths, and that this matters. It matters so much that we allow ourselves to be creators and allow ourselves to have a creative say in how we interact with the elements.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it's so fun too, because you can keep playing that game and trying to find a way to be right.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just like going to play at the casino. You might win once in a while, but you're typically not going to walk away a big winner. Like, the chances are against you.
Exactly. I 100% agree. I'm curious, when you talked about, I loved how you said I'm kind of witchy in the way that I do things. I'm curious, one of the questions I had for you was like, what are some witchy kind of tips? Because for me, those things work when I can get creative with organization and with that, the system side of my work, then all of a sudden it becomes intuitive to me. So I'm curious about your tricks that you use, your tips.
So there's so many different things. I think one of the things that comes up is a lot of creatives have a lot of clutter around them.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, what if you just kind of sat back and looked at the clutter at first and treated it more like, okay, if I was a witch, I'd just like put this over there and I would just do this over here, and like kind of playing with the space energetically first and feeling into what feels good for me. So before you're actually doing it in the 3D, moving something from one place to another, just playing with the energy of it and going, what would it feel like? Noticing patterns is something like, for creative types, it's less witchy and more creative. Noticing patterns is a really easy way to organize ourselves, because when we have clutter, we get the experience of heavy, we get the experience of stuck, we get the experience of indecision. They just go together with clutter, and it's not good or bad. That's just how it works.
True.
So when we declutter our space, we're decluttering our energetic field, we're decluttering all of it, and then we have a clear path to be able to go forward. It's just like an obstacle is in the way if there's clutter there.
Mm-hmm.
And the way energy works, it wants to go from a high intense energetic field into a lower energetic field. So that's where negative space is important. And for somebody like me, I like having a lot of space. I like having clean, like my binders all behind me. I like white. I don't like too much stuff. That's my own preferences, because I like to have space for it to go into.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So if it's really busy everywhere, it can be so overwhelming, especially for an HSP.
Yeah.
That's picking up. So witchy stuff, that can be a little bit different. I have an exercise that I could do with you right now.
Yeah, let's do it. I think it'd be fun.
And yeah, to me, it's just kind of changing the way we relate to something. So I don't know if you'd want this to be around organization specifically, or if you would like this to be around your business, organization in your business, which feels more.
Well, kind of what you were just saying about how when you even just start like sitting in a room and you give yourself permission to energetically go where you would want to go, even if you're not literally doing it, that's something that has been huge for me. And I think that for me, that's that exact piece when it comes to the whole picture. So for me, it's not necessarily just about my business. I realized that my business is literally a reflection of my life, and it is because of what I do. So it's organizing my life, or organizing my business includes organizing my life.
Right.
So my life as a whole, like just the way that it all flows in and out, that's kind of anywhere in that spectrum is kind of where I want to focus.
Okay. Well, it totally makes sense. So let's just try organization, because that affects all of your life.
Perfect. I like it.
So this is like a meditative exercise, and it's fun. People that are watching can play along with it too.
Okay, perfect.
So we just start off by closing our eyes, taking a deep breath in. And as you do, bring your attention and awareness to your thoughts. Allow any other sounds or activities that might want your attention just to fade away into the background. And as you exhale, let your breath out completely and say to yourself, this time is for me. Take another deep breath in and bring your attention and focus into your heart. This is the space where you feel love and allow yourself to be loved. Exhale deeply and let yourself feel connected to all that is good. Take one more deep breath and bring your awareness and focus to your core, deep and low into your torso. This is the space where you can access your intuition and where certainty and courage reside. Let your breath out and notice just how deeply grounded and powerful you can allow yourself to feel in this moment. Now, with your eyes still closed, I want you to imagine out in front of you is organization. You're looking at organization, seeing it out in front of you in whatever form it takes in your imagination. As you look at it, you're seeing that it has particular colors and shapes associated with it, whatever those are for you. You're noticing if there's any sounds associated with it. There may be, or there may not be. Either way is fine. Finally, you're noticing, is there any sense of movement? If there is or isn't, either way is okay. You're just noticing to get a complete sense of organization. Now, in a moment, I'm going to ask you to bring yourself energetically into the space where you were just imagining organization. It's going to be as if for a short period of time that you are becoming organization. At the count of 3, allow yourself to go into that space. 1, 2, 3. Good. So now you're in this space being organization. I'm going to ask you a few questions to find out more about you, organization. As organization, what are you feeling?
Anticipation, excitement.
Yeah. And as organization, what is the story that is being told about you?
It's hard to have words. It's like there's just appreciation, like total, just feels like total appreciation. Is the story is like essential. This is like air.
Nice. Essential like air. As organization, what are the feelings at the core of that story?
Confidence, happiness,
Yeah. Perfect. As organization, what do you want the most?
Order. That's the word that honestly came, but like flow, that's the better word. Flow.
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 Orderly flow.
Or orderly flow.
Love it. And as organization, what do you want the very most?
To create more space for all the energy that wants to come in, to give it space.
Yeah. Perfect. Some more space. As organization, what do you need?
Allowance. Permission.
Yeah. Perfect. As organization, what do you value?
Life.
Yeah.
And the flow and order to it.
Right. Perfect. As organization, where would you like Amanda to be even more powerful?
In her thought, in her harmonization of her thoughts, or organization of her thoughts.
I love that. Thank you. What is one way that you would like to be appreciated, honored, and valued, organization?
Allowance again, permission.
Yeah.
Appreciation too.
Yeah. So as organization, what would like to be paid attention to every day?
It's personal power, the will.
Yeah. Personal power and the will. Ooh, I love that. I love where that is located. Okay, so this is the moment where we get to just show so much appreciation to organization for sharing its wisdom with you. And then I'm going to invite you to come back into Amanda's body and just give yourself a little shake. Whew. So this is some of the witchy stuff I like to do because it's playful and it doesn't have to be, we don't have to go back into the stories and what has happened in the past. We can actually just start to rewrite it by having a different understanding.
Yes, I love that. And there's something powerful about giving, like, organization itself, or the thing you're resisting. You could probably use that for anything that you're resisting or at war with, but giving it a voice. That's a really powerful, that's a powerful exercise. And it also, I know that you know this, but for anyone watching, in a very literal way, it fires neural pathways that were never fired originally. So it quite literally is meeting needs that never got met, because when the needs met, neural pathways form that create more of a feeling of I'm safe, I'm enough, there's enough, I'm like worthy of being alive, rather than I'm wrong. So yeah. Really, this is really restructuring the brain is where it feels like it has to happen at the core level.
It is. And for me, like, my heaven on earth is playful and fun, and it doesn't have right and wrong and good and bad. So to come out of that paradigm and just start playing with something like this feels creative and kind of witchy and just completely different from what has been.
Exactly. Yeah. I love that. How do your clients respond to that typically?
It depends. I can't always do this with someone right away.
Right. Yeah.
There's a client that I've been working with for 2 years now. And when I first started with her, she was really stuck. She had a lot of abuse from her childhood and a lot of things. And so even though we're building a business, really what she's doing is she's rebuilding herself in the process of creating her business plan. And she's becoming who she wants to be. in the ideal vision of her business. So, as entrepreneurs, we want to be able to create this vision that we have, but we have to take ourselves with us. We have to be there in that. And so including ourselves in the equation, like, what are we urging for? What do we want to have with ourselves when we go to that space? We might want to reorganize some of the way that we're put together. That we're not wrong or broken, but in order to have what we want to have, sometimes we have to make some adjustments. It's just like clutter goes along with indecision and heaviness. It's like, well, productivity goes along with systems. It just does. Like, we have to have a system in place. There has to be something that happens next so that we can bring the money in, or we have to have a clear path for people to be able to get to us. That's how it works. There could be millions of ways, but the fun thing about getting out of the lack paradigm, the right and wrong thing, is that it's the opposite. Is in abundance, there are more things right than there are wrong. Like, there really isn't wrong, there's just different.
Yes. And that idea of like that there's an infinite amount of ways to do this, that it doesn't have to just be one way. And I think for me, when I first started, every time I would try to get my head around organizing and Google anything, I would be so overwhelmed in 5 seconds, because it just felt like so much information and so many people telling you how it's supposed to be done, and then everything costs money. And when you're at a point when you're just starting and you don't exactly know what to prioritize and what to do and all those things, it's like I didn't even really know until I gave it to myself that I needed to first and foremost organize the whole vision, my thoughts, what I even wanted. And one of the things that kept coming through to me was just do it. Like I created my business with nothing, no website, I had a phone in the beginning and a laptop. Like that was pretty much it. I didn't pay for any marketing. I didn't pay for anything. Everything was so rudimentary, you know what I mean? The way that I did everything, but it still got me traction. I still built an audience, and everything has come from that. And the whole time in that journey, I kept realizing, wow, I got out of the 9-to-5 thing, so I didn't have to put myself in a system that didn't work for me, but I kept trying to bring that same way of thinking into how I did my business. And what set me free was what you just said, which is there's an infinite amount of ways to do this, and all I need is to find the one that works for me, because and to do that, I have to work with me instead of making me wrong.
Yes.
And that's the big shift.
I think that there's another way to do that too, and that is to find what isn't working for you and to see what could make it even better. So like, again, I don't know why creation story is so fun for me on this topic, but going back to when, God created something on the first day, and at the end of the day, he sat back and he's like, yeah, this is good. And then on the second day, God didn't come back and say, oh, I don't like what I did there. What was I thinking? That's terrible. Instead, it was like, what wants to come forth next? What is the next thing? And just kept working with that until it was complete. So our businesses are going to be in phases. They're in stages. And we're not going to come to a point where we're like, yes, this is exactly what I want right off the bat. And I agree with you. It's just in the process of doing it, we find our systems. We find what works. But when something is showing itself like this isn't working for me, we can sit with it instead of being afraid, like, oh no, I have to destroy all of this, or I have to prove that I am doing it right. Instead of going into that energy again, we can stay in no, this is my heaven. This is my own beautiful chaos, and almost like a witch's cauldron. Like, what do I want to put into this next? Like, what's the next recipe that is being called forward?
Yes. And that to me is that space where we're either the ones consciously making decisions, or something is unconsciously making decisions for us, usually the old things that we've believed. And I think it's so important to realize where we're unconsciously making decisions, because it took me a while to realize I even could make a decision in that way, because I believed that I just had to figure out what I was supposed to do and do it. And if I did it wrong, it was because something was wrong with me. So it took me a long time to get out of that mindset as a whole. There was something that came through as you were talking about that, but I can't remember. So we can just keep going. Let me see. Was there anything else that you wanted to say about that specifically?
Well, I have so many different things. One of the ways that you can find what is or isn't working, or what your relationship to something is a fun little game that you can do with word association. So you can go, like, for instance, recording videos, if I'm going to go with your business, right? So recording videos. What is the first words that come up when you say that piece?
The first, like, feelings about it. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, or the first words that are associated to that.
Oh,
Yeah.
that are associated to, so being seen is like the first thing that comes up, like
Yeah.
seen, vulnerability, technicalities,
Right.
all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so that's fun because that's a core element of your business. So then when you see those word associations are so fun, because, like, this is what is right now. And so then I can see what's coming forward. And do I like what this is? Or do I want to change the meaning of some of these words? Or do I want to, like, bring some different magic into this? What would make it even more of what I'm wanting? So we can do that with any aspect of our business. We can do that with bookkeeping. We can do that with our marketing. We can do that with, like, how am I containing all of my files? Like, how am I keeping track of all of these random pieces of paper that are scribbled on the back of napkins or receipts or whatever? Like, how do I organize all of this stuff? We can just go into each of those things, do a word association, and see the feedback of what's coming back. What am I associating to this? And is this what I want to have as a core element in my business, or do I want to play with it a little?
Ooh, I love that. Word associations in general are a huge part of programming. And I think if we don't realize what our personal associations are to words and to specific things in our business specifically, we won't even realize, again, the energy that's influencing it. So that's a really powerful exercise to do. And that actually reminded me of what you said before prompted in me, which is that becoming aware of what doesn't work for you. And that moment when you, instead of making it wrong, and for me, and I think a lot of people will resonate with this, for me, I would feel shame, because as soon as I felt like I did something wrong, I felt shame. So then my creative energy would go down. Instead of being like onked up into my higher chakras, into momentum, it would be suppressed down, and that feeling of, okay, I'm wrong, that shame, that personal power going inward on itself, and spending all this time. I mean, for a long time, I would spend way longer than I care to admit going down that path of looking at every little thing about what was wrong about me and how I could fix it and how I could be enough and how and how much energy I felt like I expended through that. And what you're talking about is making it more playful. So when you recognize you're not in the paradigm of wrong, and you can look and say, what's not working? And then instead of sort of deflating that personal power, it's like, and with my will, what do I want to shift? Is that it's permission right there. And I'm realizing in this moment, that's the hack I want to give to my past self, is at the very second that shame comes up, flip it into that space where you're stirring the cauldron. You're not making it wrong. You're allowing it to be what it's wanting to be. What do you want? Allow yourself to want. That's huge. I think that is huge.
Okay. Well, and what would have happened if Adam and Eve, instead of going and hiding and being wrong, what would have happened if they would have said, I started eating from the fruit of right and wrong, of knowing what's right and wrong, and I'm a mess, and just came out in their nakedness and their vulnerability instead of covering it.
Yeah.
It could be a completely different story today.
Mm-hmm. That's such a good way to put it. And that's the shame part. And there's something about shame. As soon as we feel shame about what we are, which is a creation itself, if we feel shame about that, then we're automatically putting ourselves in that paradigm you talked about, that underworld paradigm, where we just have to constantly figure out who we're supposed to serve, essentially what and who we're supposed to serve. So
we forget who we are, because we are created in the likeness of God. We are God, a God expression here on this in this reality. So
Right.
if we're denying that, then yeah, we're not going to feel. But if our energy is being pulled out of us, like to me, I think you talk about this too. Energy is life force. Energy is our God force
Mhm.
that gives us life. Like this is how we know that we're alive.
Yep.
So if we're making our God force, our life force wrong, then we're not fully embodying what we came here to do, which was to experience ourselves in different forms and different personalities with different, I also really like finding out what is my personality type and then noticing what goes along with that. Like being organized is not super inherent with particular personalities. It just
Mhm.
isn't
That's true.
because of the way that they're put together.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I think for me, one of the biggest things I've realized is first giving myself permission, all the things we just talked about, and then second, realizing it's okay um, to pay someone else to do the things I'm not good at. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like that's
Yeah.
totally okay. And that takes so much off that stress, that pressure of so much needing to be done. And I think that's kind of another conversation, but it is something to explore for entrepreneurs. Like really, I wish I would have, another thing I would have given myself now, I'd talk to myself now and say, prioritize paying people who are gifted empaths in particular that work with entrepreneurs. Prioritize that because they get it more than anyone. And if I would have had a session with you way back when I would have started, it probably would have shifted my momentum a lot faster if I would have known that.
Oh,
So
for sure.
yeah. So, I mean, I think it's just huge. It's so easy to not prioritize that. And it's a reflection of how we don't prioritize ourselves or how the value of our own gifts when we're not actually valuing others who have those gifts. So it's a powerful way to shift things.
True. And it's all about consciousness, which again, consciousness to me is also God energy. Like if we're not conscious, we can't shift something. We have to observe it, be aware of it, witness it. That is consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And lots of times that's why we need coaches. That's why I have coaches,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't know what I don't know. I need someone to help me see where I've been making myself wrong, or just by talking about it with someone lots of times just helps to bring it out and make
Exactly.
it so that I can't trick myself, because I can trick myself into thinking that it's not a problem.
Yep. It's one of my favorite things that I love about the mastermind group and the other groups that I've done. I think you're in a majority of them, but is that it's so refreshing to hear other empaths talk about their business and talk about the things that they go through, and not even, it's not always their business, but just like to just get that witness or just to have someone reflect it back to you, the reminder of it. And I feel like these groups have helped me so much just see the genius of freaking empaths and highly
Mhm.
sensitive people, the absolute, because they are like very privy to these energies that most people don't pay attention to. They have insight that most people don't have. And it's just it's the balm on the heart of humanity to have empaths step into their power and choose to witness humanity. So it starts with ourselves, and then being able to witness others. It's such a powerful thing. And I feel pretty excited about the fact that a lot of empath entrepreneurs are working with other empath entrepreneurs. Like if we're kind of all vibing together, because we have that deep mirror that I think is so essential to see our God self, you know.
Yeah, I feel like that communion that you've created within those groups um, is my heaven on earth then, because then I'm relating with other people who are also conscious like that.
Mm-hmm.
And my world is heaven, even if, other people aren't experiencing that. What I'm experiencing around me is heaven on earth.
Yes, exactly. And you do a good job of vibing heaven on earth. Like I see you as definitely one of the like holders of a very specific frequency, you know, and it's like you hold down a frequency of heaven on earth, and it's essential. And I just love it. I love even hearing you articulate it. It's something I think it would be awesome to have a regular, like just check in. Even I'm curious if you would be interested in, or if you ever even do this. I know you work with people personally one-on-one, but have you ever really tapped into the collective, like astral conversation around organization, or like there, because I feel like there's there's a lot of gifted people like you that probably could do astral work that they don't even realize, just simply being able to witness the patterns, like you said, and the collective thought patterns, and even seeing where you could spark anomaly in that, just in the conversations that you have, you know. It'd be something interesting to explore.
Yeah, no, I'm open to I have so many irons in the fire that I don't know which ones to always pursue. I work actually part-time for a real estate company.
Oh, okay.
And I get to use a lot of this there, and he's tripled his productivity, his results, as a result of me being there. It's really fun to see how this does translate into like even non-healer work, right? Like I a lot of other healers too, but it works with a whole bunch of different systems, different business types.
Totally. Yeah. I almost see you, like when you were talking about spinning the cauldron, I see this part of you witnessing like the entire grid and seeing, like, I just see, like seeing the places light up that are like the ripest for anomaly. And something, and I don't know how that translates, whether it's a conversation with me or just in how you work with your clients or even who you attract, but it feels like key strategic movement is happening even in your psychic realm, like your higher self is like being very strategic.
Yeah, no, I can recognize that right now. What's been highlighted for me a lot is people's relationship with time is huge. And I don't know if that's because of where we are in our world, where we're kind of returning back to a normalcy again, but time is huge for people. So organizing time is like a whole different realm.
Totally. That would be an interesting conversation right there. Like our relationship with time, and how do we, because I almost see it like one of my friends once said, she's like, I work with a rhythm teacher, and I thought she meant literally, and she was like, no, it's an astral teacher, like that helps me with the rhythm of my grid, like have a rhythm with it, because it's at that point it's more like a womb or a matrix that we're birthing, you know. So we're letting it grow in us, and I think that time, that's connected to our relationship with time, because time is the linear piece, but it's actually at a higher level the womb itself, and the space of like contraction and expansion and birthing. So I don't know, that's something that might be interesting to zoom into at some point, but
totally.
I guess we've already been an hour. I've loved this conversation though. Thank you so much. It sparked a lot for me. I really can feel, I hope that it's going to help a lot of people that are in this conversation or consider themselves highly sensitive or empathic, entrepreneurs. And I think this is helpful whether you're an entrepreneur or not. You can use it in any aspect of your life. So thank you so much. And I can't wait to have you on again if you would like to be on.
Anytime, I would love to. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Amanda.
Yeah, let that conversation about time brew in you, and I will too. And maybe we'll have like our cauldrons over, like bubble up, and then we can have another conversation. All right. Have a good day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.